Okay, Brad, did you see the mushroom story?
Okay.
About the elves?
I'm just going to pull the curtain back. You messaged it to me on Discord, but as a spoilered URL.
Well,
saying, don't click on this, save it for next week. This is cold open material.
In fairness, I originally sent it without the spoiler tag, and then I edited the spoiler tag in immediately because I messed up the spoiler tag.
Well, see here, I've spent the entire last week blaming Discord's notifications, or maybe the Apple Watch's notifications. At any rate, the URL came to my watch unspoilered.
Okay, so
I got let's say a little bit of a preview of whatever's going on here. But yeah, look, 5 days, especially in the current climate, turns out to be plenty of time to forget everything about that interaction. So hit me.
Okay, so this is from a BBC article that popped up in one of my feeds someplace, and I was like, oh, this is cold open material. There's a mysterious mushroom that grows in the Yunnan province of China that when you eat it, if it has not been cooked enough, everyone who eats it is hit with strikingly odd and similar symptoms, which is that you see visions of pint-sized people marching under doors, crawling up walls, clinging to furniture. The hospital in the region where these mushrooms grow treats hundreds of these cases every year, and they grow on palm trees, and people forage for them, and you have to cook them. When you go to a hot pot place there, they set a timer for the mushrooms. This mushroomologist, a mycologist, said, I was there, I heard about this, I went to the hot pot place, a hot pot mushroom restaurant, which, like, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I would be in for a mushroom hot pot restaurant, just mushrooms.
Okay. But
he's like, they set a timer and they tell you don't eat this until the timer goes off or you might see little people.
Wait.
Yeah.
It's a selling point to not see little people?
I think, generally speaking, hallucinating small people is a bad idea.
I don't know. I mean, that was going to be my first question. Would you try it?
Oh, hell yeah.
No. I don't mean the cooked version where you're not going to see the hallucinations. I'm asking, would you try? I would try it.
I don't think I want to see little people.
That sounds like a pretty benign trip, all things considered.
I mean, look, every time I tried mushrooms like twice in college, and it was an incredible amount of vomiting both times.
Wow.
So that's
a bad one.
Yeah, I did not react well to the mushrooms.
Interesting.
So hallucinogenic mushrooms, maybe not my favorite thing.
Got it.
I wonder though, if this is like where the Icelandic little people and all the different cultures, you think these mushrooms are everywhere and people have just been horfing them down and not realizing that it's making them see the little people, and then this is where like elves and fairies and everything come from?
I mean, can we do some forensic archaeology on Jonathan Swift's whole habits?
Oh yeah, the Lilliputians, yeah.
His whole eating and otherwise existing environments. Can we try to figure out what it was he was eating, and perhaps there's a tangible explanation for all of this?
Well, so the thing that's interesting about it is that the mycologist is quoted in this article literally is saying, hey, the fact that everybody has the same exact hallucination when they eat these mushrooms is really interesting, for science.
Yeah, that seems, I mean, look, you see, not to get all serious here, but you see a weird amount of discussion about psilocybin in medical applications these days.
So the interesting thing is that this guy, the mycology doctor who is quoted here, is saying that because everybody sees the same hallucinations, it's really interesting because most hallucinogenics have wildly different effects on the same people. And I wonder, like this is me wondering if this is like the brain control fungus that, makes the mice suicidal with cats. Like, is this the beginning? Is this a Last of Us sitch?
Are these cordyceps?
I'd look, man, I don't know. I'm not a mycologist.
Yeah. Look, okay. We'll normally talk about things like this. I've also eaten mushrooms a couple times in my life. One of them, kind of nothing happened.
Yeah.
The other time was one of the most amazing nights of my life.
Okay.
So,
you're ready to go. You're back in for more.
It's about 50-50 here. So, I'd give it a shot.
I mean, look, we need to go to China, find a market, and buy some mushrooms.
Sounds like a Patreon stretch goal to me.
Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
Brad, we're doing something wild.
That's right.
It's unprecedented. We had too many questions last week, and couldn't get through them all.
Not quite as wild as eating unverified mushrooms, but 2 Q&As back to back is pretty close.
Yeah, so we had a really, like, for real, we had a really good crop of questions last month, and we wanted to come in.
And the month before.
Yeah, and the month before. And we wanted to come in and hit more of them so they weren't lost to time. Yes. And here we are.
Yes.
Without further ado, if you have a question, you can send it to techpod@content.town, or you can post it in the Discord in the Question Seeking Answers channel, and we will get it at the next episode.
We will.
I am getting an insane number of spam phone calls right now, like 4 at a time. So this is a new frontier.
For half a second, I was like, wait, you're getting 4 phone calls at one time?
It literally, I got a phone call notification, and then I got another phone call notification from a different number, and then I got a third phone notification from a third number, and a fourth one from a fourth number. The phone system's working great.
Have you seen, real quick, I don't want to spoil too much of the Nextlander Watchcast next week.
Wow.
Have you seen the 1974 Francis Ford Coppola film, The Conversation, starring Gene Hackman?
No.
Really?
That is not a Gene Hackman movie I've seen.
You should maybe look that up. A sneakers comparison came up. But it's about surveillance in the 70s.
Okay.
And if you want to see some pretty interesting, like, phone tapping technology and some stuff like that, I might recommend that film.
Wow, this is fascinating. This wait, was Enemy of a State a sleeper sequel to this movie?
Maybe, I don't know.
Because it has the art on this is the same.
I don't know. This one ends pretty definitively.
Is this set in the Bay Area?
Yes, this is also set in San Francisco.
Oh, man.
But just a lot of really interesting, like, analog surveillance technology in that movie that you would probably appreciate. Speaking of weird phone call situations.
Well, because I feel like in Enemy of the State, doesn't he, like, he lives in a Faraday cage, right? Gene Hackman does. Because
he's in that too?
Yeah, he's absolutely. Wait, isn't he?
That's a Will Smith film, I think. Oh wait, no, but Gene Hackman is in that.
Gene Hackman's like the crotchety old guy. And I wonder.
Oh wow, sure. Okay, yes, that very much sounds like he could be playing a spiritual successor to the same character in The Conversation.
Yeah, this is wild.
If it's like a crotchety old guy who's paranoid about information security.
Different name. Okay. Henry R. Call in The Conversation and Edward Lyle in Enemy of the State.
Anyway, you want to see some cool phone hacking tech.
Hell yeah.
And some long range microphones and some other fun stuff like that. I could recommend that film.
I wonder if we could build a laser microphone that you point at the glass window and look at the I bet that's probably pretty easy to do these days.
At the tail, not to just keep spoiling that podcast, which will be up Monday for patrons on the Nextlander Patreon, but an entirely passive surveillance device used by the Soviets and invented by Leon Theremin.
Oh, yeah.
Of Theremin
fame.
The
Theremin fame, yeah.
Came up at the end of that episode as well that I read up on a little bit. It's called, I believe the Wikipedia page is entitled The Thing.
Okay.
Like, I guess that's just kind of
seen that movie.
The colloquial name for this thing, also known as the Great Seal Bug, because they hid it inside a gigantic United States seal plaque that they presented to, I think, some ambassador. Yes, it was the U.S. ambassador to the Soviet Union in the 40s. They hid a passive listening device in this thing that had no power source because they were effectively bouncing radio waves off of it from remote location.
That is wild. So they had like a antenna that they aimed the radio at it to energize it?
And then they were measuring the kind of modulations in the return radio waves that were bouncing off of it and then deriving sound from those changes.
Wow.
Wild shit.
That's like planting a bunch of plants in a big hallway that react to, people brushing up against them and then, transmitting.
Sure is.
That's wild.
Or using Wi-Fi to track people's movements for that matter.
I mean, that you can buy a thing for $50 that you can do in your house right now.
That's depressing. Or cool, or both. I don't know.
It's both. I mean, a little from column A, a little from column B.
You could probably Home Assistant script some fun stuff around that.
You absolutely can, like, you can write scripts for Home Assistant that can tell when you've fallen asleep on the couch and turn off the lights for you.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because it has resolution that lets you tell the difference between sitting, standing, laying, all that stuff.
I'm going to be real. It depends on how I'm living. if I'm behaving well and going to bed at 10 o'clock like I should every night, then this isn't a problem. But sometimes I get into a rut of falling asleep on the couch and not waking up until it's like clockwork. I wake up about 2:30 or 3 every night that this happens.
Yeah.
And something that detected that and turned the lights off for me at, say, like 11 or 12 would be kind of useful.
And you need like a little robot that comes out and like lifts your head up and jams a pillow into there and puts a blankie on you.
Also that.
You're good to go.
I think falling asleep on that couch is maybe not good for some ongoing nerve issues. But anyway, let's read some questions here.
Yeah. Look, Brad, I've reached the point now when I'm sitting in my chair and I think I'm about to fall asleep. I'll just get up and go to bed because I'd rather take a nap. That's probably in the bed and not jack up my neck for 4 days.
That's probably the thing to do. I don't know. Am I regressing emotionally? Like I feel, am I turning into the childish thing of just get angry when you're tired and don't want to do what you're told?
I mean, like we have some of that in my house.
I'm annoyed that I'm tired and don't want to get up off the couch and go to the bed where it's easier to sleep. Anyway. All right. Here's an email signed Alpha. I was listening to episode 318 and the topic of Will's electric vehicle and range and charging came up, and I have a fun story about that. As a proud owner of a Chevy Bolt, range anxiety is real when driving freeways when you get about half of the expected mileage unless you never go above 60 miles per hour. But on a recent trip to the mountains, the drive home blew my mind. Driving up the mountain turned a 90-mile drive into 200 used miles on the Bolt. After charging it up to about 200 miles of range, we left to drive home from Wrightwood at 6,000 feet elevation to Long Beach, California. We departed with 204 miles of range and got home with 225 miles remaining. We actually netted 20 plus miles over a 90-mile trip due to battery regeneration. While the Bolt is the lowliest of EVs on the market, even this cheaper option has proven to be a complete game changer for me. Obviously a pretty unique situation, but still cool as hell.
So I was going to say, I'm looking forward to my Google Photos right now, but I had a day where we were in Tahoe and we came back and it wasn't wintertime. It was like the roads were clear and it was safe to regen the whole way down pretty hard. And I want to say we got like 80 miles per kilowatt hour on the downhill coming from 8,000 feet to, 1,200 or 1,500 or whatever it is in the foothills. And same thing. It was fabulous. Highly recommended not charging up all the way if you're at the top of a big giant mountain.
Is that regenerative braking? Or do you have to manually engage the brake for that to happen, or is that just taking your foot off the accelerator and letting it coast?
Well, it depends on the car. Sure. If you're doing like one pedal driving, then there's no taking your foot off the car. Oh, I found the screenshot. It's 11.8 miles per kilowatt hour going 70 miles an hour, which usually you get like 3 to 4 somewhere in there.
Huh. Man, that's crazy.
And then there's one screenshot 5 minutes later of 49.2 miles per kilowatt hour.
That seems like something that you could maybe end up obsessing over a little bit, like kind of optimizing for the most possible efficiency of your car, which, I mean, I guess that's kind of technically possible in a gas car in some ways as well, but...
Well, you don't get the moment-to-moment read on the gas car, though. Like the gas is doing some interpolation.
Yes. Like in the gas car, you'd be going by feel, right? Well,
and you do your mileage, and most modern gas cars have like a miles per gallanometer, right? But yeah, the direct feed of how it's going on a moment-to-moment basis makes me think about things like, oh, do I really want the heat on? Is it warm enough that I want the heater turned on? Because, the heater in an electric car isn't like a passive, it's not using the warmth of the engine block to warm some water that warms the air in your cabin. It's turning on a heating element or a heat pump that turns it on, and that uses power and reduces your range. I found in the Bolt, I cared much more because charging that thing was a pain in the butt. In the Ioniq, it's much less of on road trips. It's much less of an issue because it's always 20 minutes to 80%. And so I don't really worry about it as much. Now, what I will say is I do think about things like in the middle of summer, if I'm driving to LA and it's 125 degrees in the Central Valley, if it makes more sense to go down 101, which is on the coast where it's 65 or 70 degrees all the time, versus driving down 5 where everybody goes 80 miles an hour. And like often it's faster to go the 30 miles, the longer way that you drive slower because you have fewer charge stops, especially with the Bolt where the charging time was so long. So Anyway,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Dave in Sheffield got one read last week and another one read this week.
Wow.
Congratulations.
It's a twofer from Dave.
There's some network services and tools that I want to explore and learn, partially for career learning, but also maybe to see if there's a point deploying them in my home lab. I can't decide, however, whether I should pick up a mini PC of some kind. I'm sure you're aware of the go-tos like the Lenovo ThinkCentre and tiny Dell Optiplex Micros, or a Raspberry Pi, or an old NUC.
Mm-hmm.
Or should I just use my homemade Debian NAS to host VMs? It was made from an old PC upgrades, so the Ryzen 5600X is extremely underutilized in it. I will say, the cores on that thing good for compiling software and stuff, at least when the occasions that you need to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes on. What are the pros and cons? The VM solution is cheap/free, and I can spin up snapshots and tear them down easily. Again, that's on the 5600X, kind of the full-size PC that he was talking about. The physical machine, meaning the mini PC, is not going to break or be broken by a host. The physical machine would look cool in my mini rack on my desk. Is that really a good reason? So, the principle of least functionality would suggest a NAS should be just that, and a VM host ought to be separate, but can use storage from the NAS. What would you do?
So this is the eternal question, right? And it's funny. I think we should do an episode where we touch it base on like what's going on in our home lab soon.
Yeah, I had a request from somebody on the Discord last week, I think, about stepping through so I've got almost exactly what Dave in Sheffield is talking about here. I have a just flat Debian PC with a bunch of hard drives in it as my NAS/server now, and somebody had asked me to this was somebody who uses TrueNAS and was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting off of an appliance style OS like TrueNAS and just going straight Linux, but can you step through all the components of what makes a storage server go without a front end like that? So we might roll that into some kind of home lab update.
Yeah, it's so I have a Synology NAS that's just a low power Intel machine. It's a little soft on the hardware transcode, so I don't actually host a lot of stuff on it natively, although I do host some lightweight stuff like my Ubiquity controller and some other stuff lives in Docker containers or Synology plugins. I think that like my argument depends on what this network service is as to whether you should run it on its own hardware or whether you should run it in like a VM, or I think a Docker container is also the third thing that you haven't really talked about here. My policy, generally speaking, is that I start by putting it on one of the machines that's floating and available, either that has Docker running on it that I can put in the Docker container, or on the Synology in the Docker implementation on the Synology. And then if that's not enough juice for whatever the application is, then I'll move it over to the dedicated, either a dedicated Raspberry Pi or to something like my B-Link, which is a N110, I think, or 102, or I can't remember. It's one of those low power Intel kind of embedded-y / mobile CPUs with like 16 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, so. I don't know what the recommendation is here, because you and I have taken opposite tacks on this, because like I said, my store server is a 12600K with 64 gig of RAM and 10 hard drives in it, as I've said ad nauseum.
That's like $1 million worth of RAM at this point.
It's ECC too. Well, actually, you know what? I wonder if ECC is like relatively cheaper than the gamer off-the-shelf gamer RAM where the demand is. I'm sure.
I wonder if AI cares about ECC. Yeah. I bet they don't seem to care about lying.
No,
so
they certainly don't. Why would they care about flipped bits then? But I will say that it is the, I would say, overwhelming opinion of people on our Discord that separate NAS and separate like VM host or server is the way to go. I think most people think kind of compartmentalizing that stuff is, I think probably mostly for maintenance. If I had to guess, it's mostly just like, hey, if your VM host dies, you don't have to worry about your storage also being down.
That's
I think potentially there are also security implications there of, there's less of a barrier if a service gets compromised on your server and the storage is also all in that machine. They probably have a quicker path to getting to the storage than they would if it was on a separate machine. So I have to practice a lot of containerization and security barriers, I guess I would say, on my NAS, which we'll get into that next time when we do that home lab thing.
Yeah, for me, there's a lot of like, what are the things I want the most uptime on, and I tend to put those either on dedicated hardware, like Home Assistant's on its own Home Assistant Yellow.
Yeah,
the Pi holes are on their own Raspberry Pis, etc. And then the other stuff, like if the Minecraft server goes down, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
right?
That's
if the
exactly
Plex server goes down, it's not a huge deal.
That is exactly it. I would say look at what you're planning to run, and anything that you would be annoyed if it was down for more than like 30 seconds, do not put it on. In fact, I wouldn't even put it on that little mini server. I would do what you said and put it on like practically its own dedicated hardware.
Yeah, I think the mini server's been pretty reliable. Like the one I have is fanless, actually, so there's really nothing to go wrong in it except for the SSD dying.
Right. But I do the same thing. Like Blocky and Home Assistant are basically the two here. It's like Home Assistant's down, my lights don't work.
Yeah.
Blocky is down, internet doesn't work because there's no DNS. So stuff like that I run on Raspberry Pis. Like it's good to separate that stuff out. But
that makes sense.
It's like there are advantages to both.
Yeah, I would definitely look at Docker though. It's like I will say I was a Docker skeptic coming from BSD jails, and having used it for a few years now. Like I don't know if I'm a believer, but it's very convenient, especially for this kind of stuff.
I also, and then again, this is for the Home Lab episode, but I was so used to using jails that jails and BSD are basically like a whole extra computer running. It's like a VM, except not a VM. It's not virtualized. It's just siloed off from the rest of the host. I clung to that methodology in Linux for, I think, longer than our Linux channel on the server would like.
Well,
but they finally talked me into, except instead of moving to Docker, what if you moved to Podman instead?
Oh God. Well,
we'll get into that.
I was going to say,
later.
I would say if you're learning Docker, you don't know how to do Docker now, don't start with command line Docker. Just install Portainer or one of those things that lets you manage it from a web interface and makes it much more straightforward when you're learning.
What if you not only started with command line, but you used the other tool besides Docker that is basically Docker compatible, except occasionally you'll run into a weird edge case?
Yeah, see, I don't like edge cases, so I would say just run Docker and Portainer or whatever. There's a much lower overhead version of Portainer that's better for home labs, and I can't remember what it's called, but yeah. Anyway, that's what I got.
All right. Sticking with the Linuxy stuff here for a second. Here is an email from, did they sign this email? I don't think there's a name on this one. Oh, wait, hang on.
Jay from the East Coast?
Way down here, yes, Jay from the East Coast. There it is. It's a long email. I may not get into all of this too much, but here's a tip for you. Brad mentioned in a recent episode about how much Unix, and by extension Linux command line stuff, was still present in macOS. If you didn't know, I thought I'd mention PowerShell also aliases many Unix commands. This is not Windows subsystem for Linux or anything. This is a feature of PowerShell itself. Example, in PowerShell, if you type man-ls, it automatically becomes get help, get child item.
So it translates the man page request for the ls command into, that's wild.
Yeah, so how much PowerShell have you done?
None. Very
really
little.
Interesting.
Well,
PowerShell is like super interesting, actually. I don't love everything about it, but some of the things that it's good at are really interesting.
So I did do some PowerShell stuff to get builds. PowerShell ends up being a thing I have to do for build servers sometimes when I help somebody set up a build server for a game.
Sure.
Because that's all Windows and it's all Windows compilers and all that stuff. And PowerShell has deep hooks for that. And, but it's very much I know enough to be extremely dangerous and not expertise.
You can do some pretty wild stuff with it. Like real quick, just to in fact, this touches on the question after this I was going to take, but the most magical, weird, interesting thing about PowerShell is, you piping commands in Linux. You guys have talked about this on the Dual Boot Diaries.
Yeah, we love piping.
Wait, is Adam piping now?
No, Adam's not. Adam. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I haven't asked him lately about its piping.
He'll get there. He'll get
for
there.
Folks who don't know, piping commands in Unix and POSIX compliant terminals, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Lets you take the output from the first command, put a pipe character, the vertical line in between it, and then it sends the output from one command into the input of the next command on that line.
Right. So the difference with PowerShell is that with the POSIX shells, the classic Unix terminal that you're talking about, it's just a raw text stream. What you're sending to the next program is just plain text. In PowerShell, it's structured data.
What, really? You can send like a JPEG?
Well, no. So it's internally structured by PowerShell. So it's like if you get a directory listing, which is what get child item is,
Yeah.
which they're aliasing to ls here. So like that's the dir, dir of the classic command prompt in DOS. Like get child item is basically the dir of or the ls of PowerShell. But when you're sending a directory listing and piping it to the next thing, you can. I lack the vocabulary to describe this. It's sending, like I said, a structured, like a hierarchical list of like the file names, the creation times, the path, like the parent path,
in a way that the next application can understand it.
So then you can use run methods against the next, like that data in the next command that you're piping to select for specific data or manipulate it or
wild.
Transform it, do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's really neat.
It's funny. Like I remember years ago when I was doing DVD rips, there was a tool that now would be an easy PowerShell tool to make, script to make, that basically let you edit file names in a directory like a text file.
Mm-hmm.
So you just opened up a directory and you could rename the files just by moving up and down the document and saving at the end, and it rewrote all the files to the file name changes. But yeah, that's wild. I didn't know you could do stuff like that.
So bulk rename is one of the big things I use PowerShell for something like this. You can use regular expression to replace parts of a bulk list of file names in a loop like that. It's hard to explain unless you kind of see it in action, but it's actually pretty powerful. And I think it's wild. It's pretty cool.
I didn't know that this was an intentional choice. I always thought it was weird that all of a sudden in PowerShell, like LS works and PWD works and stuff like that.
No,
so
I assume that was part of Microsoft's push to just make Windows a little more friendly to Linux people, along with WSL, trying to get those people over.
Makes sense.
But the last thing I'll say, all those commands like get child item and get help, like man and ls and Linux are separate binaries. Those are actual compiled programs that live on your storage. Those are commandlets in PowerShell. So like get child item, those are not you're not running actual executables. Those are all
they're just part of the shell.
Like, yes, they all run as functions of the shell. They call them commandlets, but there's like
That's
a bajillion
weird.
Of them built in. All right, actually going to scroll way down to Discord questions here.
Ooh.
And read this RK Harris 62 question, because I know he has been diving deep into Linux. I think he's a pretty recent desktop convert.
Mm-hmm.
Who I've seen popping up in the Linux channel quite a bit recently. What's the best shell and why?
I use Fish, but that's just because it's installed by default in Cache.
Yes. When I briefly tinkered with Cache, that was my first exposure to Fish, and I was like, "What is this?"
So the thing about, I think, like my recommendation is Bash, just because, like, when you download a script for something for Linux, 99% of the time it's going to be a Bash script.
Yeah, that's probably definitely the safest place to start.
The thing I will say is that even if you're using one of the distros that ships something other than Bash, at least on Cache, I can just type Bash and then it dumps me in the exact same folder in the, and I can run the Bash script from inside Bash.
Yeah, even if you don't use Bash, you should always have Bash installed on a system just for compatibility reasons. I use ZSH or Zshell.
Oh yeah.
Which is pretty highly Bash compatible, is my understanding. Like it pretty much will run more or less the same scripts. Like they'd go out of their way to try to be compatible with Bash, but it has extra functionality. To be frank, the only reason I switched to it is because macOS stopped shipping Bash. Like they default to ZSH and have for some years. And for some stupid reason, instead of just installing Bash on my MacBook,
you did the new thing.
I then I went and installed ZSH on every other machine that needed a shell around here and continue to do so. But anyway, in ZSH, you can use actual color names when you're coloring your prompt instead of having to look up the ANSI color codes, which are impossible to remember.
I like the idea that you think I'm adjusting the colors of things in my terminal.
Dude, if you're not making a cool looking prompt, what is even the point of using a Unix?
I have chosen to spend my time in other ways.
That's fine.
The thing I like about Fish is that when I open Alacrity and Fish is there, it just gives me, like, it's real simple. I have a caret, and then above the line where the prompt is, it just shows what the current working directory is.
Yeah.
So it's very straightforward.
Yes.
I also like, I can't remember what this is called. I have a little program that runs it has like the Cache logo and then system stats when I open a new shell window, which I quite like.
So you do like cool stuff in your terminal.
I do, but not enough to customize my dot files for the terminal yet.
To be honest, I think I've talked about this before. To be honest, all the coloring in my prompt is actually functional. It is username.
Yeah.
Username is colored based on whether it's root or an unprivileged user. Host name is colored based on whether I'm on the host or a container.
Oh, that's nice.
It's pretty useful.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's just a nice little visual reminder of where I am.
I don't do a lot of containers on this machine, but I do knowing whether I've SSH into another machine would be nice actually, because I sometimes lose myself there.
That kind of stuff.
The one thing I do want to do is sync my type ahead cache across all the computers I use.
So that when I figure out the history file?
Yeah, the history file.
Man, that sounds complex.
No, it turns out it's just a flat file.
Well,
so you just dump it. You just run a script that pulls it from Git when you turn on when you log into the computer. It's complex if you have a machine that never gets signed out. Like if I leave my laptop on all the time, that makes it complicated.
Sure.
But people. I googled why do people use the fish shell, and the main thing is that the defaults are good, is what people say.
Have you been to the fish homepage?
No. Is it cool?
The tagline at the top is "Finally a command line shell for the 90s."
Okay, that's amazing.
I'm not sure if that's like some self-aware, like goofy marketing, or if this has actually been around since the 90s and they just never changed it.
I do not think it's been around since the 90s, given that version 3 released in 2021.
You say that, but you might be surprised.
I mean,
you might be surprised.
Maybe
at how old some stuff that you think is, like, I think ZSH is from the 90s, if I'm not mistaken.
ZSH has been around forever. Yeah,
I'm not seeing when the very first release of Fish happened here.
They don't have dates on their release pages.
Wait, I really want to know now. Oh, they don't. Yeah, you're right. They don't. Boo.
Hold on.
Version 2.1.2 came out in 2015, so it's probably not actually from the 90s.
Fish Beta R2 started in 2012.
Yeah.
There's a bug from 2012 in their GitHub.
Okay, their point is taken though.
Yeah. I do love that the webpage commits to 90s, straight 90s style. I mean, it's not, because there's no tables or frames.
Yeah.
But this could have been a mid 90s webpage, late 90s webpage.
Sure. Real quick, not to turn this whole episode into terminal and shell talk, but PowerShell.
Shell talk.
PowerShell is available for everything. You can get it on Linux and Mac OS as well.
I'm good. Thank you.
I've occasionally, back when I used to use a PowerShell script to process podcasts, I ran PowerShell on Mac OS just for that. And then I rewrote it in Python. I
will say the running the build servers not on Windows would have been really nice every time I've set up a build server. And if PowerShell gets you there, that would be dope. Yeah. I don't know what the Unreal Linux compiling situation is these days.
I don't know. Last thing I'll say real quick, if you want to check out that like structured data piping concept that I mentioned for PowerShell, but not in PowerShell, there's also Nushell. Have you seen that?
No.
I haven't touched it in a couple of years, but it's Nushell, which is primarily for Linux and Unix likes, although I think you can get it for Windows and Mac as well. It does the same thing though. But it uses more traditional Unix style command line commands, but also structures the data that you're piping to other commands, so you can select for things.
That's interesting. Yeah. A lot of times.
Here's a great example, actually. I'll just read this command line from the top of their homepage. You can go to nushell.sh if you want to see what I'm talking about. Like you run an ls, which is just a directory listing, right? Mm-hmm. And you pipe it, and then there's a where keyword, which is some kind of like comparison operator, basically. So you're piping ls to where size greater than 10 megabytes. So because it has a size column in the structured data it's piping about the directory listing, it's able to select for files of or over a certain size as they're doing there. And after that, they're piping it to sort by modified. So like basically it knows a bunch of metadata about the files you're working with. So you can filter and modify by different parameters instead of just trying to parse a giant block of text every time you pipe.
And it has plugins, so presumably you can add plugins for data types that it doesn't know out of the box. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff going on with shells these days.
Also, I think it's 10 megabits on the example that they have there, Brad.
Maybe. I don't know. No. Well, you can see it in the screenshot.
Well, yeah.
It's capital B. And actually, sorry, it's not megabytes. It's mebibytes.
Maybe bytes. Yeah, but I think in the line it says lowercase m, lowercase b, which is millibits. I don't know.
They might need to work on their syntax a little bit.
Yeah, I got issues with Nushell. They're on my list again.
Anyway, all right. Maybe enough shell talk for now. Actually, sorry, I meant to read this earlier since we were talking about racking mini PCs and stuff.
Yeah.
Zed writes in, with the growing popularity of 10-inch racks, has Brad considered buying, building, or printing one to scratch that power-efficient home labbing itch?
When they say 10-inch rack, do they mean 10-inch wide or 10-inch tall?
I think wide, but I could be wrong.
Oh, so it's like a rack for little guys?
It's like a little rack to go on your desk. The short answer is no. The longer answer is that it's not so much the rack I actually desire. The rack is more symbolic of a basement. It's less having the rack and more having space where a rack could go. I don't know if, because to be honest with you, it is, I mean, I would love to have a rack, don't get me wrong, but it needs to be 42U for one thing. I mean, not really, but that would be nice.
Or bust, yeah.
But the real goal is to get this fucking server and all this other shit out of this office where I never have to hear it again. Well, like a full-size machine with 10 hard drives 5 feet away is kind of actually pretty loud.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
And there's so much cable mess behind this desk, and like there's just so much extra routing of cables and other considerations. The UPS is overloaded because there's too many machines in one room. Like it's just on and on. Yes, I want a rack. A 10-inch rack would not actually solve the problem if I just want all this crap out of here and in a room where I never have to see or hear it. The
other thing is, I don't know that I would put my computer stuff in the basement.
Maybe not, actually. I'm going to be real based on the stuff that's gone on in my parents' basement over the last 18 months. I literally said to my mom on the phone last weekend, like, everything you guys have dealt with might be telling me I should never own a house with a basement, actually.
Yeah, I mean, look, basements are fraught. Ask our friend Vinny about his basement. It's like they're up and down. Sometimes basements are great, sometimes not so much. My parents' basement in the house that I grew up in was fine for the 30 years that we lived there.
Yeah, same.
The moment somebody bought it, it rained real bad and flooded almost immediately. So like, also there was a sump in there the entire time, and I assume it was doing some work that maybe we weren't aware of. So yeah.
Anyway, I think 10-inch racks are neat if you've got stuff to go in them. I can see why. Like they certainly would be nice to sit on the corner of the desk if you have like a NUC and a router and little doohickeys of that nature. It's a nice way to organize them. But
I'd rather just put in a big pile in my garage shelf and not have to look at it.
Yeah, well, garage also works, except there seemed to be some thought on the Discord that.
Oh, yeah.
Your Raspberry Pi 3's demise may have been hastened by its exposure to the elements in the garage.
I got my $40 worth out of that machine over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the answer is a climate-controlled garage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Or a shed, perhaps? I guess you got to climate control the shed, too. And
you say that, but like, I actually looked at it and was looking at what it would cost for me to build a backyard shed. Like pour a slab myself and build like a 15 by 10 foot or 15 by 15 foot square shed. Like I can't legally put power on it that's hooked up to the mains without talking to the county and doing a whole bunch of stuff. But I can legally put a bunch of panels and a battery on there.
Interesting.
And it all lives within the realm of possibility. So maybe that's a 2027 project, 2026 project is Brad and Will made a tech shed.
I might need a little more land for that, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is you can come down and help me build mine and then have limited access to it.
That is true.
Yeah.
Actually, by limited access, do you mean, can I just put my long fantasized about friend cloud backup solution in there?
Yeah, your offsite backup.
Can I just give you the Raspberry Pi with 4 hard drives hooked up to it backup? Just keep, I think 8 miles is enough of geographical separation.
Look, if both of us get wiped out, you're not going to care if your data's gone.
Yep. Frankly, yes.
Yeah.
All right. And man, the latency would be real good.
It'd be fine.
Do that backup.
I'm gonna throttle your network connection though, just FYI.
That's fine. Well, I mean, realistically, I guess you would only really ever need to downstream, your downstream is all that would ever matter because you'd only be backing up to the other person and presumably never actually pulling data back off of it. Unless
yeah, and if you need to pull data back off of it, I'll bring you the hard drives, or you can come get the hard drives.
8 miles away, I can just come get them.
Yeah, that's like a good distance actually, because then like the you don't have to email somebody the hard drives for an offsite backup,
because that is a point of failure in itself. If you have to send the only remaining copy of the data in the mail across the country, that could easily disappear.
Well, yeah, I like this idea a lot. I think this is a good idea. I think we should build a shed.
Just gotta get the shed first.
Let me talk to my wife. She's gonna be thrilled. She can have the office back.
Let's see. Here's a question from John Bob that I'm kind of interested in. What are the downsides to keeping my iPhone on battery saver mode all the time? I made a shortcut automation to turn it on when the phone stops charging, and now my phone seems to use less than half as much battery as normal. The only thing I've noticed is that photos wait to sync to iCloud until the phone is plugged in to charge.
Yeah, I don't think there's a downside, really.
I think it does pause a lot of other background tasks like the iCloud syncing. I don't know if it actually goes out of its way to tell you what those are.
It turns off the always on screen is the big one.
Oh, do you use that? I think I've mentioned I got an iPhone 17, right?
Oh, la-di-da.
I turned off, because it's an OLED screen and those are still prone to burn in. I turned off the always on screen for that reason.
If my iPhone burns in, I'm going to make him replace it. So,
I've got time. We might do an episode. We might do an Apple update episode, since I've got not a notch, but a dynamic island in my life now.
It's nice, isn't it?
And the AirPods are also pretty life-changing. We might do a little hands-on. Here's my first new phone in a while. Episode soon, but yes.
I'm looking at the list of things that they turn off when you do this.
Do they actually spell it out?
They have a list on their it's EN-US 101604 on their support site.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
And 5G turns off on most devices that aren't the iPhone 12 and 13, which I wonder if this is just out of date. That my guess is, this was last updated December 3. Auto lock defaults to 30 seconds. Display brightness is reduced, which will suck if you're outside. The big one for me is that if you have a greater than 60 hertz phone or iPad, it turns the refresh rate to 60 hertz.
Yes, I was going to say even my super old my iPad Pro from 2017, which has like 45 minutes of battery life now. That thing hits low battery mode all the time, and yes, the screen refresh is noticeably worse, and that's a kind of a deal breaker. Because what's the point of getting the promotion screen if it's not on?
I don't mind only downloading stuff at night. If I could have a feature that lets me only sync stuff to the cloud when it's plugged in, I would 100% turn that on.
Like, honestly, the real bummer about this feature is that they don't expose these options in a more granular way, so you can turn some on and not others.
The other thing is the background app refresh for the apps that don't use the notification based refresh, but like have a timer that tells the OS to turn them back on and off.
Yeah,
that's also won't work. So things like I want to say the Nest app used to do that, where if you left the area around your house, it would set your thermostat to away and stuff like that. But yeah, I like, if you don't mind the refresh rate thing, there's no downside to turning it on. It's going to make your battery last a lot longer because you'll do fewer charge cycles. I absolutely turn it on. Like, if I'm on a trip or something and don't want to bring in my watch charger, I absolutely turn my watch into low power mode the moment I take it off the charger the morning I'm leaving.
Yes, I have used this on my phone a few times when I knew I was going to be out all day. I wanted to make sure I had a lot of charge. But not a lot of downsides, I guess.
I have to say, like, I have my iPhone usually is set to cap at stop charging at 80%.
That was one of the things I was going to ask. Was I've been debating, should I just put it to 80? Like, is the 80% a hard limit, or like is 85 okay, 90 okay? Like, is it just not charging to full that is the key?
I mean, I think the more you charge it to full, the worse it is my understanding of how the battery chemistry works.
Okay.
I don't, even on days when I leave the house, I'm usually plugging in the car while I'm on the way to and from someplace, because I use CarPlay. So it's really only an issue when I'm doing something that involves me being away from a charger or my desk at home for extended periods of time.
Yeah, so I've been very impressed with the battery life on this 17 so far. Like, I kind of only charge it every other day right now.
It's really, battery life on the phone is really not a problem anymore.
It's gotten real good. Okay, this is a fascinating question. This is an excellent question from Magic Joe F. What will be the first 100-year-old piece of code still used in production?
Samba.
I'm not sure I'll quite make it to C. Maybe if I'm part robot.
Maybe NTP actually.
NTP, yeah, or like my first thought was like some aspect of the TCP/IP stack.
I bet that's relatively new though. That's like a 90s thing.
Well, that's 80s thing. Yeah, it was designed in or maybe even the late 70s that it was designed. But I mean, there are different implementations of it, of course. Like different OSs.
Yeah. NTP was written in 81.
Okay. But of course, I mean, that's the same thing. Every protocol was defined at a point in time, but then they are implemented in different actual code paths. Or,
yeah, that's true.
Different. Like it's harder to say like whose specific implementation of one of these technologies is still going to be around and kicking. I don't know. It's a fascinating question. I'm not really super qualified to answer it. I mean, what about like COBOL and Fortran though? Like those are maybe actually there's got to be. Assuming there's still a planet in 50 years.
I don't think the COBOL and Fortran stuff.
There's got to be some government server around somewhere running some old COBOL.
Yeah, I mean, look. Well, I don't think the Voyager probes are going to make it that long, sadly.
Oh, yeah.
But they're running 50-year-old code at this point.
Yeah.
So we're halfway there. I mean, I don't know that anybody runs COBOL anymore.
I feel like you still see like calls for engineers that know those languages here and there occasionally. Like there's still like government payment systems or banking stuff that relies on that here and there. Like another contender is the Sabre system that's used for booking airline tickets. That's been the travel reservation system. It was originally built for Pan Am by IBM in the 60s. Or American Airlines rather. It's the terminal that travel agents log into when they book plane tickets still. So like, I don't know that I'm sure that they've ship of Theseus that thing enough at this point, but it also still feels really, the other thing is banking system has ancient code in it too. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough one, but I would love to hear, ideas in the Discord from people who are more, professionally engaged with this subject on this topic.
This is almost a question for like somebody at the Computer History Museum.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Yeah. You know how they booked airplane tickets before they had the computer system, right? Travel agents called the airline, and the airline had like a card catalog style series of drawers for each drawer represented one flight. And it had sections so you could buy a seat. Like each section was a different day in the drawer. And you'd literally put a fucking 3x5 card in the drawer when somebody bought a seat to know that seat was no longer available.
That sounds totally infallible.
Yeah.
That is totally wild. There's one other thing I want to mention really quick since you mentioned like Voyager. Voyager is the one that has left the solar system, right? Voyager 1.
Asterisk,
Or has...
It's furthest
past the heliopause. I don't know if it's like fully outside the sun's influence or whatever, but
yeah, it's in the interstellar medium. It's they're playing like the how many instruments can we still run on 0.3 of a watt or whatever the radioisotope or reactor on that thing is still giving. It's an amazing piece of technology, and it is far.
There was a documentary about that exact subject that I really want to highly recommend called "It's Quieter in the Twilight."
Oh, okay.
Which is for some reason a name I just cannot remember to save my life. I watched this documentary like 3 years ago. We should maybe think about watching it for this show. It's actually appears to be free on YouTube Movies and TV, free with ads.
Ooh.
I just pulled it up. I'll link it in the show notes actually. But it is entirely about the Voyager mission, but it's actually really about the people who have spent literally their entire careers working on the Voyager mission because it is such a long. I might have brought this up before because it is such a long mission.
Yeah.
It necessitates people that were working on it at the beginning of their careers, unless they've moved on to other roles, are still working on it at the end of their career. Like they spent their entire professional lives on one mission.
It's wild.
And it's about half and half engineering stuff because they get into a ton of detail about how they are to this day still shunting and balancing power from other systems just to keep the core functionality going. So they can talk to it for a few minutes a day or whatever. But the other side of it is this like incredibly poignant, like human look at the people themselves and like what is very clearly like real loss that they are experiencing as this thing moves toward no longer responding. Yeah, like it's like very clearly like touching these people very deeply that this thing is going to stop responding at some point soon. Well, like it's a really, really well done thing.
There was a lovely article around the time that I want to say Voyager 2 reached the heliopause, because I think it was the first one to cross that kind of threshold, about somebody who started as an intern on the Voyager projects in the 70s and is like holding off retirement to bring it home. And it's wild. That
person might be in this documentary for all I know, because you get the sense that some of them are still hanging around just because they're so personally invested in it.
Somebody who's mostly worked on things that take between 3 to 4 weeks and a couple of days to make.
Yep.
The idea of working on something for 50 years is incredible.
Like I can't even wrap my head around, I've said this many times, around game development. Like even just spending like 1 to 5 or 6 years on a single product is like incomprehensible to me.
I was talking to somebody the other day who's getting ready to start pre-production on a new project, and they were like, what do you think? Is this long enough for pre-production? I was like, look, man, I'm the wrong person to ask on this. The vast majority of my career, everything, I would work on 55 things in the space of a typical 12-month pre-production for a big AAA game.
Yes, online media will kind of break your brain in terms of like production cycles on things.
Yeah.
It is just a constant churn. Let's see, a couple more here. Pronk might be a first-time questioner. I don't remember that.
That's a pretty good name.
Yeah, I don't remember that username before. Brad mentioned owning a Google TV on the podcast. Is that an actual television or a box like an Apple TV? Googling it on the internet, it sounds like maybe Google released physical TVs and a box and an OS, all called Google TV. I'm curious what made it interesting compared to the other options back when Brad bought it, and is it still supported? So in my case, Google TV is just the interface on my smart TV.
Yeah.
Like I have a Hisense television, and it just happens to have Google TV built into it. But Google TV in this case is just a platform. Like other TVs will have Roku, for example, right?
Yeah.
Or
LG's has their version of Palm OS that they turned into a TV OS.
Or WebOS, actually.
WebOS is what it's called. Yeah, thank you.
Of course, in their case, that one's proprietary. They don't farm that one out to other TVs, just theirs. But there are TVs on the market that have Amazon Fire TV on them instead.
Don't buy those. Also, don't buy Rokus. Frankly, they're real spy-y.
Yes, okay. My girlfriend got a Roku for free from some promotion, and it was fine for that. But yeah, if I was paying the money with all the ads on there and the data collection and stuff, I would probably get something else.
No single device has lit up my pie hole like the Roku did.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so I looked into it a little bit. I believe this used to be called Android TV.
Yeah, so they've had multiple goes at this.
Yes.
Android TV launched in like 2013 or 2014. We did some coverage of it. They had an early version that they shipped with Sony when we were still in the Whiskey Media basement in like 2011 or 2012.
Okay.
It was right around the same time the Apple TV came out with the first simplified remote, like we have 4 buttons, a 5-way D-pad and a couple of other buttons and a volume control. And then Sony had a thing that had like 150 buttons, a full keyboard, and 2 kind of circular 5-way D-pads on it for some reason. That didn't last very long, unsurprisingly.
I could see that.
The updated Google TV. So Android TV then shipped a newer version on devices like the Shield, the NVIDIA Shield.
And is this also the same interface that's on a Chromecast?
So Chromecast is different. Most Chromecasts in the early days didn't have an interface.
Oh.
They were just a place that you could cast stuff to. So it was like a thing you plugged into an HDMI port, and then you could send something to that, and when you disconnected it, just turned the TV back off.
Oh, interesting.
The new, more modern Google Chromecasts have like remotes and interfaces and stuff, though. Because it turns out being able to run apps on the device and not have it connected to your phone is what people want.
Yep.
I think the Google TV TVs are pretty good. I don't think Google ever actually sold a TV, for what it's worth.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say for my part, the OS running on the TV was the last consideration I had when I bought the TV. I bought the TV based on its hardware specs and price.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened to have Google TV on it, which has been okay. I don't hate it. It's not my favorite. We don't need to get into the ins and outs of it necessarily, but like it's been adequate, but I am still pretty happy to move to an Apple TV in the near future.
From the exposure I've had to them, like Airbnbs and stuff, the Roku TV is my least favorite. The Google TV is fine. The LG WebOS thing is quite nice, but I'd rather have an Apple TV than any of those.
Yeah. Yes. That's where I'm at. Every time I go back to my parents' house and they have an Apple TV, I am like, what am I doing to myself?
Well,
frankly,
I'll tell you, when we go, my daughter's homeschooled, so we sometimes go on a little bit of a longer trip, and we'll stay someplace for like a month or 28 days or something. And I often just grab the Apple TV from the entertainment center and take it with us when we go someplace.
Yeah. Well,
plug it into the TV, and then our stuff just comes with us. It's quite nice.
Even like UX aside, that thing is small enough that it's worth the extra clutter just to not have to like sign into apps on a different device, like to just plug a thing in and go. I think.
Well, it's also there's also a pretty good cottage industry in both cast and 3D printed things that will screw into the Visa mounts on your TV that will hold the Apple TV just on the back of the TV, so you don't have to look at it.
Yep. Man, I might think about getting one of those actually.
Yeah.
I see. I guess radio signals go through TVs just fine, right?
Glass and plastic these days.
I see. Yeah, fair. I guess there's actually not a ton of metal in there. I see people putting their consoles standing up behind their TVs a lot.
That's where my PlayStation is when it's in the living room.
I always feel like there's too much metal in the TV for that to be reliable for the controller signal, but I guess it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Bluetooth's pretty robust.
Yeah, fair. All right. Let's do one more quick pair of questions.
Okay.
And then get out of here. Fishy J. Do we know when we can expect the Panther Lake replacement for the N150 processor?
I don't think it's going to be Panther Lake for the N150 replacement.
So I didn't either. I thought, so Wildcat Lake is the code name we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And I agree. I thought it was going to be a Nova Lake kind of derivative. But
is it Panther Lake? Really?
It is Panther Lake. I was surprised as well. So I was really hoping for more information on that thing out of CES. And what we got out of CES was one Intel slide deck that got uploaded to the Intel like kind of media center that had like a slide at the end of it that just happens to mention Wildcat Lake in a kind of table of different Wildcat and Panther Lake SKUs. So yeah, unfortunately, not a lot of there's like no information about when it's coming out. Unfortunately, I will say the specs they put out in this slide are pretty much almost exactly what has been rumored for the last 6 months or whatever. It is compared to the N100, N150, which I think are basically 4 E-cores.
It's 4 cores. I think the first gen one is before they did P and E cores, if I recall. But
so Wildcat Lake is going to be 2 performance cores and 2 performance cores, 2 P cores, and 4 LPE cores.
Yeah, the LPE ones are the ones that the cores live on the IO tile.
Is it the IO controller?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Intel typically puts all their cores on a separate compute tile so they can all talk to each other. But yes, now they're doing these low power E cores that are on a separate tile from the big ones.
So on this one, it looks like it's running on the compute and GPU. So on Panther Lake, the compute tile is one thing that has the P cores and the E cores. Right. There's an IO tile that has like the NPU and the LPE cores and all the IO stuff, the PCI Express lanes, the memory controller, all that stuff. And then there's a third GPU tile that lives outside of both of those other things. On this, it looks like the infrastructure is a compute/GPU tile that has both the P cores and the LPE cores, as well as the NPU and 2 XE3, the non-celestial, what's it called? Starts with a B, Battle Mage cores, all on one 18A tile. And then,
interesting. And
then there's a platform controller tile with the PCI Express lanes, not many, presumably for NVMEs. It's a 6 PCI Gen 4 lanes, some Thunderbolt ports, some USB 3.2 and 2, and then Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And those are all living on the platform tile, which is, they say, built on an external process. So it's 18A. It's not the same compute ties and IO ties as the Panther Lake.
The big Panther Lake. I think that's fine if it's still on the new process. I am tentatively very bullish about Wildcat Lake for mini PCs and little servers. I've been talking about this for like a year. I am dying to get my hands on one of these as a router.
Yeah.
/ kind of little home networking server.
I mean, look, if it lives up to the kind of history, the N100, which is the Alder Lake version of this, was for Gracemont E-cores. You were right, it was E-cores.
Yeah.
And 16 up to 16 gigs of RAM.
Yeah,
like it's a really nice for a little home server or router or something like that. An always on machine.
And to put it in a little bit more desktop context, those cores, the Alder Lake E-cores on that N100, both talking to people at Intel and looking at benchmarks and stuff, those are like in the ballpark of the 6700K, 6500K.
Yeah.
Which is like, granted, is now a 10-year-old CPU, but like it's still, that's a lot of CPU heft for the tiny size of an N100.
It's a ton of lift for 5 watts.
Right. And so
but the GPU kind of sucks in that one specifically. So,
right. But so now with Wildcat Lake, we're talking about, I don't know how many generations newer E-cores, but like the Intel, whoever's doing the E-cores at Intel is on some shit. Like they've been on one because like they have been putting up like serious IPC gains generation over generation.
Well, so the LPE ones will probably be a little, you should temper your expectations.
Maybe so. That's I thought they were just more or less equivalent to E cores, but maybe not.
Depends on how they're giving power to them. Yeah, honestly, is my understanding.
That's fair, right? Yeah, there's still some numbers remain to be seen on exactly how this is going to stack up, but tentatively seems very promising for something like a home router.
For home lab type stuff, like I've been waiting to upgrade the B-Link machine that is my NAS, that it has like game servers and Plex and stuff on it because I'm waiting for this particular part. So.
Yes, I've been putting off buying an N100 for a while because I mean, I don't like desperately need one. My router still works fine for the time being, but also I kind of wanted to wait for this anyway.
Now I'm telling you, I'm looking at Intel's site. I searched for Wildcat Lake. And the first result is a software download for the display virtualization drivers for Wildcat Lake beta.
Really?
From December 14th, 2025.
Yeah. If you're interesting. So if you're a Phoronix reader, probably I am the most exhaustive Linux news site on the internet. Intel has been adding some Wildcat Lake bits to the Linux kernel for a little bit now. So it does seem like it's on the way. I was surprised to see apparently the first. I can't keep track of Intel's branding. Is it Core Ultra 300? Is that the new
Core Ultra 300? Is Panther Lake.
That's Panther Lake, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first Panther Lake stuff is shipping like now, right? Like,
well, the embargo was up the other day. Okay. Like we talked about it in the Full Nerd this week.
Right. So that kind of caught me by surprise. I don't think Wildcat Lake is part of this initial wave.
It is not.
But
yeah.
I'm hoping that it's, as you can probably tell, I care more about this thing than I do the actual Panther Lake.
Yeah, my guess is that the Wildcat Lake stuff will sneak out later this year.
Yeah, and who knows how long after that before the mini PCs of the world start switching to it, assuming they even do. I'm not 100% sure all this is going to pan out the way I want it to, but
it always takes longer than you want for them to show up in like the $300 B-Links and stuff like that.
And even then, are they going to start shipping ones with 10 gigabit networking in them right away? Probably not. Like it could be a while before.
I guarantee you that Minis Forum, as soon as they get this, is going to put it in something that you can use for a home lab.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Like that is 100% their bread and butter.
Like my excitement here is a chip that is potentially as fast as we're talking about, fabbed on a process that is hopefully as low power as we think 18A is going to be, with 10 gigabit LAN built into it. Especially as we talk a lot about pulling your Wi-Fi out of your router. Like this kind of could be the last router I ever buy until it dies.
Yeah.
Because who's going to have a connection in their house faster than 10 gigabit anytime soon for the next couple decades?
Nope.
So we're good. It's literally like get this thing and configure it and then never buy another router maybe.
So the question is, would you rather have also with 6 PCI Express lanes, you'd have room for a half, 2 lanes of NVMe or 4 lanes of NVMe and 2 lanes of NIC.
Yeah.
So like you could put an SFP card or something like that in there too. So
yeah, sure. Yeah.
There's options.
Seems like a lot of potential with this platform. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a good lake.
Yes. Okay. Well, speaking of good lakes, last question real quick here from DC Actual. Do we know why everything at Intel is lake?
Yeah, they've done this forever. It used to be places in Oregon, I think.
Oh, is that where like Nehalem and stuff like that?
Yeah,
came
that's
from?
what Nehalem and Airmont and all those were.
Okay.
The lake stuff started. I don't know when the lake stuff started.
Sky Lake is the first one I remember, but I'm sure there were some before that.
I think there were before Sky Lake for sure.
Actually, Wikipedia, as always, has a handy table here. God, going back to the early 90s.
Yeah.
Of Intel. Wow, they used planets for a long time, apparently.
That was before I cared.
Would you
Bay Trail's code name was Bay Lake. Apparently, that was motherboards.
Would you like to know what the Intel Batman was?
What was the Intel Batman?
It was an Intel Premier PCI motherboard, socket 4 430LX chipset.
That's wild.
I need to look up more about the Intel Batman. They also have an Intel Batman's Revenge.
God. There was a 2006 Bear Lake chipset for motherboards as well. I don't know why they started using lakes. I think they ran out of other... I want to say they ran out of mountains is what they started with.
I would believe that. I am looking. Rock Lake in 2003 was a motherboard, but it looks like they did not use another lake until Battle Lake.
The annoying thing to me is
Lake.
that they have families for their for their architectures, and then they codename the subchips in the families as well. So like Nehalem is a family with like 150 processors in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's named after either the net town of Nehalem in Tillamook County or the Nehalem River. It's unclear.
Okay, they've been using lakes off and on for a while, even before the CPUs.
Like I think they
Diamond
started
Lake?
the lakes with Alder Lake is the modern interpretation of the lake to me.
But like there was a Diamond Lake in 2006, which was a controller ASIC at the center of the Robson flash cache technology.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking about. Yeah.
Of course. Everybody knows Diamond Lake. Berg Lake, turbo memory module in the Robson flash cache. I think you're right. Let me see. Sky Lake. More than you ever wanted to know about lakes. Yeah, Skylake. I think Skylake was the beginning of the Intel CPU lake trend. Skylake, KB Lake, Cannon Lake, Coffee Lake. My guess is they do it because there's a lot of lakes out there.
There are a lot of lakes in the part of the country where the headquarters and stuff are.
I bet there are like way more lakes than you think out there. They're probably never going to run out of lakes. And coves. Lakes and coves.
So there's an article that's copied and pasted into this Reddit thing, into this Reddit article, because the original source is gone now. But they, the code names are all things that the bucket category for their code names, according to to Jeff Tripp, who was Intel's senior strategic planner whenever this article was written, is that it's all geographical place names from North America.
Okay. That checks out.
And they tend to skew towards Oregon, where the design team is.
Yep.
And that goes all the way back to the 90s. It was like with Tillamook and all of the early Willamette and all those. So
yeah, I think some of them, one of these, I actually looked up one of these lakes a while back, is in Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Still North America.
Yeah, fair. All right. Yeah. I think that's it.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think part of this is that didn't Microsoft get in trouble for naming an OS Chicago or something at some point because of the musical?
Think so. Did they really? Well, Chicago,
I thought so.
Chicago was the code name for Windows 95.
Yeah.
But it was just a code name. Surely they couldn't get in trouble for that. Could they?
So this is another quote from that article. Yeah, it's down here later. That's weird. The Intel engineering team decided on a code name, but then you run into legal problems with your code name. So, for example, Microsoft had a problem with the Chicago. So Intel learned that your code name should be something that not many people care about. You don't have to go and fight the mayor of Chicago because you're using the name of their city for one of your products. Weird. I think we should probably find out about this Chicago problem that Microsoft had, and
maybe
that seems topical.
Maybe. I'm still a little too fixated on the Intel Batman. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, that was was it 89? Was it Batman?
That was early 90s.
Okay, so it was Joel Schumacher, Batman era, probably.
Yes. Let me see.
Batman everybody loves the most.
93. I don't know if Forever was out yet.
93 was when I was in high school. I feel like I got McDonald's cups for the third one, the one with the
95. Batman
okay.
Forever was 95.
So that was that the fourth one, or was that the third one?
Third one.
The third one was called Forever?
Yes.
They really messed that up, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, I think that's as good a place as any to wrap it up for this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you would like to find out how to support the show, we are 100% listener supported, which means we would not be here without you, our trusted and faithful listeners. You can go to patreon.com/techpod. Again, it's patreon.com/techpod, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain access to the Discord, which is full of delightful human beings. You can get our monthly patron exclusive episode where we talk about upcoming projects and things that are maybe too small for a full episode. Sometimes we dig deep into specific requests that listeners have asked for, all sorts of stuff. And we appreciate each and every person who backs the Patreon.
We sure do. We could not do it without you.
If you can't back the Patreon, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, because that also kicks ass, and we appreciate folks who do that as well.
True.
And we also want to give an extra special shout out to our executive producer tier patrons, including Jason Lee, Enwy Felicitas Rips. That's a new one. Andrew Slosky, Jordan Lippett, With Bunnies, David Allen, James Kamek, and Pantheon, makers of the HS3 high-speed 3D printer. Thanks, everybody, and thanks for your ongoing support. We appreciate all of you.
We do.
We will be back next week with another edition of the Tech Pod. Hey, should we tease something?
Yes.
We should say that if you were feeling like you would maybe like to watch Halt and Catch Fire,
and then listen to us talk about it,
probably a good time to start thinking about that.
Yeah. No specific date in mind yet, but it could be soon.
It might be the March of Halt and Catch Fire. Who knows? We'll see.
After talking about this for 3 or 4 years, I think, at this point.
Well, so there's a monkey wrench in the plan, because I talked to somebody who's a fan of the show today and also has a lot of knowledge of that era of computers.
Okay.
And he was like, actually, the fourth season is the best season.
Huh.
And I was like, well, I was kind of interested in the story of the BIOS. He's like, okay, well, then you're going to like the first season.
Okay.
But they tried to Mad Men the first season.
Okay,
so like from a actual, is this a good show or not? It's maybe a little more Mad Men than the later seasons, which are actually quite good.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess my biggest question is how computery it remains beyond the first season.
That's my question is, I've only watched the first season, so I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay. So you've seen the whole thing, so you can vouch that it is worth watching and talking about.
The first season is rad. I kind of, from my perspective, I'm actually in the process right now of looking for a book that I could read that's about the same topic. That's a non-fictional book.
Okay.
And I want to see, I want to read that so that at the same time we're talking about it, we have some actual historical data to compare.
Yeah. For people who don't know, and you correct me if I'm wrong, like this is basically a sort of semi-fictionalized retelling of the rise of Compaq and the reverse engineering of the IBM PC, correct?
That's what the first season is about. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I have to see this.
Yeah. So yeah. And for folks who don't know, we'll talk about it in the future because it's a fascinating topic.
Is it like, do they use the name Compaq and like names of the actual people?
I don't remember.
Is it more dramatized and fictionalized than that?
Look, all I know is that they specifically, the company that is Compaq specifically hires someone so they have deniability that they reverse engineered the BIOS and lock them in a room with an IBM PC and tell them to figure it out. And they're like, that's like the first episode. So
kind of remarkable to me that a show about that got made.
Well, it was in the wake of Mad Men. So,
okay, sure.
AMC was flush.
They're just looking for other period appropriate business stories.
They got to get a lot of period pieces with guys in weird suits smoking.
Yep.
Smoking and womanizing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the Empire is in it.
Empire.
Oh, you haven't watched Foundation, huh?
No, I haven't. Wait, Empire.
Lee
Pace? Lee Pace is who I was going to say. That's right. Yeah. I was going to say I'd forgotten that Lee Pace is in this, which is
Dreamboat.
Very exciting.
Lee. Yeah.
That guy's wild. All right.
If you like Lee Pace and you haven't watched Foundation, you are missing out, man.
I should probably check that out.
That is some top-notch Lee Pace.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Bonus extra content after the pod. But yeah, watch Halt and Catch Fire, and we'll talk about it in a couple months. And that'll do it for us this week. As always, please consider the environment before printing this podcast.